Hello everyone, I'm Mr. MKL, and I'm here to tell you about the Nintendo Switch preview event that took place here in Toronto recently. It was an event intended to showcase the hardware and a bunch of games off to a couple hundred lucky people who received invites. The event was really fun. They had several setups for every game there, which allowed everyone to get a good chance to play. You can get in line and get a few goes at every game if you really wanted to, except for Zelda, which required actually tickets. And you were handed out tickets and you were scheduled in various blocks to be able to go in and get some time to play the game. The setup was really beautiful. They had a lot of fun stuff that you can interact with. They had a giant hat from Mario Odyssey that you can pose with. They had a large piece of Zelda art with one of the giant skull chests. Same thing with Splatoon. They had a statue of a giant squid that you could pose with. So some of the setups were themed based around various games. It was kind of cool. They also had a really great setup in order to be able to display the various modes you can play the Switch in. And so they set up various vignettes. So for the TV mode, they had a vignette of a living room with a couple of windows and family portraits and stuff. And then they had another one where you could play in handheld mode, for example, at a diner. It was interesting. They were demoing Mario Kart with that, and so you can get together with a few people and play a multiplayer session. In terms of the hardware, depending on what setup you went to, they offered you the ability to play in various controller configurations. So some of them offered you just the Pro Controller, others offered you the Joy-Con in the grip or outside of the grip as a separated controller. So you had a variety of opportunities to try the different setups, which was very welcoming. A note about the Joy-Cons themselves, you could play them just as the Joy-Con taken off of the Switch tablet, in which case they're actually rather small. The added bumper that you can put on that contains a wrist strap and also actually improved SR and SRL triggers really gives it an extra bit of heft, which makes it much more comfortable. So I think that's going to be the preferred way to play for most people, is to have that extended bumper on there. The face buttons on the Joy-Cons are actually very reminiscent of the 3DS face buttons. So they're about that size. So I'm talking the OG 3DS. So like I have the Zelda edition, so for a point of reference. And the D-pad is unfortunately, if you use it in the grip, for example, it is also face buttons. It's like not unlike the C button layout or the, as someone suggested, the Sony PlayStation D-pad. So it's not terrible, but it's really not ideal. But when you do have the Joy-Cons in the grip, it's essentially a Pro Controller. I would definitely use that again. It felt very comfortable. I think that's probably going to be my main mode to play. The only thing that you don't have, like I said, is the D-pad, which on the Pro Controller the D-pad is pretty much the same as the Pro Controller on the Wii U. The Wii U Pro Controller is, I guess, slightly narrower. It's not as wide, for sure. So the Switch Pro Controller is much more compact. And the Z triggers are also different on the Switch Pro Controller. They are not analog triggers. They're just click triggers, but they're actually quite comfortable. And those triggers are almost identical to the ones on the Joy-Con. I found that to be a comfortable way to play. I played Ultra Street Fighter 2 with it, as well as a couple other games, Splatoon being one of them. So that's basically it. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to play with the Switch as in portable mode. So I'm not entirely sure how that feels, but given the fact that it's the Joy-Cons just attached to the screen, I'd wager it would be not unlike having the Joy-Cons with something about the width of the Wii U gamepad. So that works out. As for the games that were there were many games. There was Ultimate Street Fighter 2 or Ultra Street Fighter 2, the Final Challengers XZ4. Whatever it might be. There's also Splatoon 2. There was Sonic Mania, Bomberman R. Of course, ARMS was there, as was what I think is personally my standout of the show, Has Been Heroes. But and those were all the ones that I was able to play. Skylanders was there, obviously Zelda, as well as 1-2 Switch, Disgaea 5. So there was a lot of stuff there. But to the ones that I played, Street Fighter 2 is Street Fighter 2. So we got to mash buttons and play some old school Street Fighter. So it was fun. Splatoon 2 was more Splatoon. It had some different balances, different balance patches to it. They changed how the splat roller works, and they introduced some new weapons like dual splatties. So it was extremely fun. The setup only allowed you to aim, to do your vertical aim with the motion controls, which was kind of awkward. By the end of the demo, I didn't really notice it that much. The rep there wouldn't confirm that it would be you could do a traditional dual analog controls, but I would be surprised if they didn't allow you to do that. I think they just want to show off the motion controls in this situation. And on that note, actually, I will talk about ARMS. They only let you play the game with the motion controls, which was fun enough. I felt the motion controls were much more responsive than what they had with the Wii Motion Plus. I think some of the thresholds that they were using were a little awkward for me, so like how far you had to tilt in order to be able to block in ARMS. I look forward to being able to try the traditional controls with that game. But the game was excellent. It had a variety of fighters. I only tried out Ribbon Girl because I had a bit of a rivalry going with Ducky, so I just wanted to get used to one character and try some stuff out. But the game allows you to, every character is slightly different, has slightly different mobility options. There's a ninja, for example, who can block and can do basically a parry into a teleport and teleport behind the opponent. There is the Ribbon Girl who has, I think it's like a triple jump, so she's very mobile, but not particularly strong. But the game was extremely fun. I think Nintendo's talking a big game about having it be very much a fighting game. I would love to see that happen. I think they're hitting some of the right notes at the very least, so I look forward to seeing how the community reacts to ARMS. I mean, ARMS for Evo, right? ARMS for Evo, guys. Much more interesting to me was Snipperclips, which I got really excited. I saw a demo for Snipperclips a couple weeks ago, I guess, and I got extremely excited about this game. It seems like a pretty hardcore co-op puzzle game. You're two pieces of cardboard that are adorable and animated. You and your partner have to cut each other into various shapes in order to be able to solve the puzzle at hand. Some of them got pretty intense. They really require a lot of cooperation. And we're told that it'll be up to 4-player cooperative, which could be absolutely crazy, especially given how it can turn into a very competitive game, because you can cut each other to bits, and it's quite entertaining. But I'm really looking forward to that. Also at the show, and this is definitely my game of the show, I heard about it and I saw a little bit about it and I completely dismissed it. There was no one sitting at the station, and the guy handed me a controller, so I was like, why not? This is why I'm here, right? I'm here to try out these games. So, Has-Been Heroes. This game is an amalgamation of several things. At its core, it's a cross between, it's a lane-based tower defense game. But it's more like a tower offense game, because you're constantly moving forward and the enemies are coming towards you. So it has a MOBA-ish aspect to it. You have a party of characters. I had, I believe, 6 characters in my party. So 3 of them were in the 3 lanes, and the others were my magic users who were backups, who are in the back line. And I'm pushing forward as enemies are coming towards me. And you have a cooldown meter for your attacks for all your characters, and as you build up, you're able to attack. You start taking out the enemies. You can stun them, and then you can swap your heroes between the lanes in order to be able to create combos. And you can actually link those into more attacks or buffs or debuffs from your magic users in the backline. It's an amazing, super interesting game, and this is all wrapped in a procedurally generated roguelike structure. So you start the game and you have a procedurally generated map, and you have to pick where you go, and you have to clear the map and get through it. The rep couldn't tell me what the structure of the game is beyond that. He says he believes that there's going to be various worlds, but he doesn't know how it's going to be all tied together, but this would be essentially one world that he had at your disposal. So we did one battle of one world, and it was really interesting. You'd be able to make your way through the maps and find, bonuses and shops and items, and be able to build up your party. So it has some hefty RPG elements in there as well. So I gotta say, I was blown away by this game. I'm ashamed to say I don't have that much footage of it. So yeah, that's that about sums it up. There was some other games there. Like I said, Skylanders was there. Puyo Puyo Tetris was there, which if you played it, I mean, it's pretty much the same. 1-2 Switch, which we didn't get to play, but seems like an interesting WarioWare style game. I mean, I was sold. Nintendo can take my rupees, so I was sold on this thing a while ago. But I gotta say, it's amazing confirmation to be able to go in and get your hands on this game. The Joy-Cons and the Switch feel super comfortable. Might be a little bit of getting used to for the Joy-Con and the NES style. It's there's some. It's small, so if you have large hands, you might have some trouble. But I think for most people, it'll be fine. And worst case scenario, between the grip and the Pro controllers, you'll have some alternative options that you can use. Check out the Switch. Take a look at the games. I really recommend looking at Has Been Heroes. Anybody into Splatoon, anyone into multiplayer shooters needs to check that out. There's some good stuff coming out in the early months of the Switch, so keep an eye out, guys.